Belize is recognized as one of the countries most vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change.
In Belize, while we might not be a major emitter, we are, the reality is that we will be impacted by climate change. We are being impacted by, some of the impacts that are related to climate change threat factors and hazards. No? We need to initiate actions on the ground to build our capacity, to build our ability to be resilient, to build our capacity to adapt and, mitigate some of the impacts on the ground.
In Belize, we are prone to flooding and we are prone to tropical cyclones. And all these factors or hazards affect the economy in Belize and also the livelihoods of people. We conducted vulnerability studies in some economic sectors of Belize. And these vulnerabilities show that, especially for some sectors, example, the agricultural sector with a 1 to 2 degree rise in temperature, there will be a reduction of 12 to 20% in yields. And these vulnerabilities were taken for corn, beans, and rice.
Poverty is a critical factor in terms of vulnerability and disasters, because sometimes people do not have the financial resources to respond to the immediate need.
They will not survive unless we deal appropriately with climate change. Climate change is here. So whenever we plan and think, wherever we are, climate change must be part of those planning and those thinking.
Currently, Belize does not have a climate change policy. There is need for a policy to provide a sort of a national direction on climate change.
You can't tell a policymaker, look man, you need to do this for 2030. They will say, are you crazy? My election is only 2 years from now. They want to plan only for 3 years. So you have to put it in a form that they will understand. Countries like the United States and Western Europe can adapt because they have the resources, both human and financial. In our case, we have to plan very carefully.
This national investment plan is very important, especially community like Ambergris Caye, since we are on that hurricane belt, and Ambergris Caye depends on tourism. So climate change will have a big impact on the tourism. So we need to look at plans, how to mitigate or how to plan for the future, because climate change, high temperatures and bigger storms will have a lot of impact on the coast of Belize, especially the reef system. We have seen a lot of coral bleaching events that we haven't seen before. So if high temperatures continue, we'll probably see more of that coming, and that will have a direct effect on the tourism of Ambergris Caye.
We look at Belize City as being a very critical and strategic point for climate resiliency for the country on a whole. And the reason for that is that Belize City is really the hub of our transportation throughout the country, but also into the country. When you fly into Belize, you fly into Ladyville, which is practically, we consider it as Belize City already. And so what happens is that that area that is Belize City and the greater Belize City area is very vulnerable. Belize City is within 2 rivers, and if we don't plan well, if we don't do the correct strategies, then we will have severe problems. We will be cut off from our airports, we will be cut off from our cruise ports, from our commercial ports. And so it is absolutely critical that, first of all, we look at Belize City as being an important and very vulnerable area for the country.
I think that the climate resilience really needs to go to the base, to the educating the populace. And my vision would be for good transportation system, good infrastructure, proper education, maybe even a paradigm shift within our leadership into thinking of climate change as more of something that is serious instead of a backbench, a problem that maybe we'll get to it eventually.
I applaud the government for taking this very important step, because we need to put in place a national policy and strategy, an action plan to deal with the realities of climate change. We all know that climate change is not something that is out there. It's not something for the first world countries or countries in Asia or Europe or whatever. So the fact that the government is looking at doing this and looking at doing it across, this cross-sectoral approach, getting in information from the various entities, from the various government entities, from the NGOs, from the communities, this nice integrated dialogue. I think I really applaud them for taking this, very important step.
In terms of leading the process, we're doing a good job. I think it should remain in the Ministry of Economic Development, and it must be multi-sectoral, including even your NGOs, your Ministry of Forest, Fisheries and Sustainable Development, Ministry of Natural Resources, even the lands, and certainly the Ministry of Education.
To see the interest of the international community in wanting to support the government of Belize and the projects in particular, to me that is an initiative that I think is a very good one that I want to be a part of.
Some of the exciting things that I saw, the opportunities that we have, was the opportunity to meet with like-minded organizations, with government departments, representatives, to see exactly where we are in terms of climate resilience, to see the gaps that we have, to prepare ourselves for funding. That's when you realize that there are certain things missing, that we don't have a policy, we don't have a plan, we don't have a strategy, and we have funding knocking at our door. So you have to certainly start to plan strategically, get direction, prioritize, and then get into the funding phase.
I really enjoyed the approach that they took. Is a cross-sectoral approach, so we have our counterparts from all the sectors almost. And so what it does, it allows the heads to come together and to try to formulate a way forward. And so I really commend the organizers and the funding agencies that have allowed this to happen, for them to ensure that this type of procedure is taken, because at the end of the day, we are the ones on the ground that we're working with the people, we're working with the industries, and at the end of the day, I do think that when it comes down to climate resiliency, it is not just a tourism thing, it's not just an agriculture thing, it's not just a health thing, not just a engineering thing. In fact, it is a cross-section of all those sectors, and really this methodology that we have been using so far I think has been very effective.